call the meeting to order, the Jabez Smith House Committee. 6/17 on June 25th. First order of business is election of officers, but perhaps we'll forego that till the end, and we can bring up and discuss a couple of issues that we needed to talk about first. But yes, okay, so I think the committee has been sort of dormant for a while because we several years ago lost our live-in curator, and that was a big setback for the house. We were not able to, up until that point, the house was very busy, very active. We had a lot of activities going on. But when the curator left and the rules that it turned out that the town determined that we could no longer have a curator, a live-in curator who was being compensated with room and board. That because the town attorney said that that would not be appropriate. They would have to be treated as a town employee, be paid, and receive benefits. And at the time, the town didn't have the resources to do that. So we were left without a curator, and we did our best to kind of staff it ourselves. I gave people tours numerous times. You know, Lisa would call me up and say, "Hey, somebody contact the town. Can we come over and look at the house?" I'd say, "Sure." I'd go over and give them a tour. But beyond that, we were sort of keeping an eye on it, and the town was doing their end of maintaining the structure. So that's kind of where things were. But then I think over the course of the winter, I did get some communication from Lisa that the town was looking to kind of recreate the committee. We had some interested volunteers, which is really good news. But there was not a lot of back and forth, and so it was a little vague as to what the status of the committee was in relation to the town. So I don't know it, and I was, as you say, Richard, I was thinking maybe we would sort of go into that a little bit with Lisa, but I'll have to do it at a different time.
So I raised my hand. I think that's the
okay. Yep. Gotcha. Hi. You may.
So you reckon, okay. So I appreciate what you said, Tim, and I think that's a general overview. But I think it's also important for us to have a little bit more of the history. Now, I've been on the committee since it started, and that goes back. I can't even tell you how many years that we did a lot of work on the house. We renovated it. The town put some money into it. The background is that the person who donated the land and the house required that it be, and I'm paraphrasing now because it's been a while since I've looked at the deed, but that there was a requirement that the house be available for people to be able to see, that her furniture be kept on display with access. And the committee determined, gosh, it's got to be 30, 40, I mean, maybe even 40 years ago, that the best way to accomplish the goals of the deed and the town's responsibility was to have a curator. And the curator would live upstairs, that there was an arrangement made that the town would take care of some of the cost of oil because it was an old house. And that the curator would have it open with the advice of the committee a certain amount of time on a regular basis. And we went through a number of them, and we found one gentleman who was just absolutely amazing, Mr. Fitzgerald. He was a Revolutionary War I guess they call it a reenactor. And he was the one who planted some gardens there that was reminiscent of what would have been around at that time, and had a number of very successful reenactments there. And I've got some interesting photographs that I took of some of them that I found recently. And he finally left because the town had made a determination that they had to have an insurance policy that far exceeded anything that they could afford because these are groups that don't have a lot of money. And so the town's policy under the prior town manager, for whatever reason, decided that they had to have insurance, that they didn't want the town's insurance to be the primary insurance on it, which they could have done. There's no question about it. But that was a choice that was made. So we lost Michael Fitzgerald. And then we brought in another young woman who was a good curator who also was involved with other historic houses. And unfortunately, she had an accident and could no longer climb the stairs. So we were actively looking for a replacement. And we spent a number of months with a lot of hard work. And we had some very good candidates. We had a woman from North Stonington who had been the curator of a house up there. We had an artist, Tim Mockler, who was interested. And there were a couple of others so they were all worthy candidates. And we had chosen, I believe, the one from North Stonington. And that was the time we had a change in town managers. And we were called into a meeting in the manager's office and told that we could no longer have a curator. It wasn't discussed with us. He gave us a letter from the town attorney. And my being an attorney, I was concerned because that letter was clearly, in my mind, a letter that was requested rather than requesting what are the legal possibilities. It wasn't a letter that had pluses and minuses or what the issue was. It was simply a letter, in my mind, to cover a decision that the new town manager, John Burke, had decided he didn't want to support the house and the bother of having the expenses. I know as a committee member, I think I was the longest standing one at that time. It was extraordinarily discouraging. We felt that we'd had the rug pulled out from underneath us, and we just didn't have the heart to fight it. If we had wanted to fight it, I think we could have shown very easily. I've got enough understanding of the law in that area to have pushed back quite strongly on it. So I felt that it was simply, and I think there's some of the other members, that it was simply that there was no longer a town support for it. And so we let the committee just go dormant because there was nothing for us to do. And so when I heard from our mayor that her daughter was interested in being on the committee, I was very excited because maybe now we would have a change in the town's policy so we could make good use of the house and all of the money that had been spent bringing it up to speed and doing a restoration that was historically accurate. We hired a historic architect firm. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, from Rhode Island, who came over and managed the reconstruction of it. So a lot of effort was put in. And now we were in a situation where there was, what was the point on having a committee if that the way that we had managed it for 20 or 30 years, just because there was a change in that the town manager decided that it was no longer something that would be supported. My understanding is that the reason the whole thing came up was that Ledyard had reached out because they were in the process of looking for a new curator for their town-owned property, the Lester House. And they were looking for just to see what arrangement the town of Groton had. And that's, I think, what called it to Mr. Burke's attention. It's interestingly enough, they sent the same letter to Ledyard, and Ledyard basically said, sorry, we're going to have a curator. So they can continue to have a curator. So I'm not sure what legal advice they got beyond that, but certainly that's an indication that that was not a necessary step. But what bothered me the most at that time was we were not called in to have a discussion. We were called in to be told that we were no longer going to have a curator after we had spent months and actually years if you'd look at the fact that we had that other one to let it go. So I really am not, well, again, my enthusiasm was because maybe it would be changed. And now I find out that without even calling the committee, they decide to make use of it. So I just don't think there's much sense in spending time working on this committee unless I can be convinced that we have something that's going to be worthwhile to do. That's why I wanted to have somebody from the town who can answer those questions. Why wasn't the committee informed? I already have obviously a bad taste in my mouth from the way that we were dismissed in 2017. I'd like to be convinced because I have had, I'm probably again the longest member of it by far. And the other point that's important to recognize is that the town has failed, in my opinion, to meet the obligations since 2017 of the will. And if a family member wished to take us to task, they could probably have filed a claim because they were the remaindermen. They were the ones that would have the property if the town failed to meet the obligations under the will. It's a charitable intent, and the state of Connecticut takes it very seriously. But again, that would have required litigation. If the town lost on that, not only is it the Jabez Smith, but that entire land where they built Grosso, I think is it Grosso Gardens? It's where the ambulance and that the public housing that's right behind it is all on land that was donated, and that was again, if you will, the quid pro quo. The town put the money in to restore the house because they were taking some of the land, and that was seemed to be a good balance at that time. I'm not sure they actually got the approval of the state of Connecticut AG at that time, but they may have. So that's sort of my overall summary of, and it's not a very pleasant one. I'm sorry to be coming in as they say, Debbie Downer, but I just don't think there's much point in going forward unless there's a plan that is something that would clearly show that the town is going to support us more than just simply an occasional event. Because I've got too many other things to do. So I'll shut up for a moment. But that's really, again, I'm very disappointed somebody from the town isn't here to be able to answer some of those questions. Okay, my hand's down.
Right. Thank you for, thank you for the history, Richard, and for bringing us a little more detail of what happened and what transpired, why the committee wasn't able to respond. So I appreciate your willingness to bring that in. Yeah. Hard to say exactly where we go. I agree. I feel like I'm a little surprised at the extent to which the town kind of took over the management of the house, with the committee still, some members of the committee still active or available. So yes, I'm not sure without the town representative here how we're going to resolve that or go forward.
I'll go next.
Okay, Dana, but before we get to that, why don't we introduce ourselves and at least kind of so we have two new members, right? And perhaps you could each tell us, explain a little how you got involved in the house.
So I'm Dana Parfit. I live just right around the corner. I've been in Groton forever. And I am an active volunteer here at the library, and I serve on some other committees. And one of the committees that I serve on is the 250th Groton Mystic Celebrate America Committee. And in a minute, I'll go into all of that as to how that connection came about with Jabez Smith. But years ago, when that building was very active, and I remember the curators who were there, I went to many events there with my children and my grandchildren, and participated in Girl Scout events there, and did all sorts of wonderful things, and saw it as a very active resource for Groton. So for me personally, I felt bad that it's been sitting there doing nothing when it could be so valuable. And when I see everything going on at Avery Cop House and we've got nothing happening here, that was my inspiration for coming back, is that we should be using this gold mine that we have for everyone to be able to utilize and see, because it is so wonderful.
You?
Hi, my name is Aaliyah Staten. I born and raised in Groton. Sort of. I was born in Groton. I am a recent. I recently graduated college in 2024 with a background in. My degree is in history, philosophy, and politics with a background in law. And I've always loved history. I delved deeply into history to the point where I'm taking another history course this summer. I am going abroad for a few weeks, but I will be back. I wanted to learn more about Groton's history, and that is why I was informed about the committee being didn't know about committees, or all of the committees that the town had, and it was brought to my attention that we have so I was suggested that I buy one what I can get out of me to learn, develop myself more, the historical background of Groton, but also what I can hopefully.
Great to have some interest in the house. We appreciate it. I'm Tim Pratt. I was at the chair of the committee for years. Attorney Richard Dixon, who's been with the committee for longer than I have. I think it was founded right in the late 80s. Is that right, Richard?
I can barely hear you guys. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, you've been on with the committee since I think the late 1980s. Am I
Well,
right?
since it was formed, I was one of the original members. Lorraine
Right.
Santangelo was the primary one. And I have let's go back to a moment. I have a few questions, but we'll go ahead and let you continue when we
Okay.
move to the next.
Sure. Anyway, but Dana, everything you were saying is exactly, that was our feeling about the house. What a great resource for Groton, this double history. But we felt for many, many years that wasn't being, utilized to its full potential. And certainly after the last curator, live-in curator, Richard Mike Fitzgerald, without him, it was a different picture for us. So we did our best with volunteers, tried to fill in, but certainly change it. As Richard was saying, when the town said basically nobody any more curators, it was hard to know how we were going to proceed. Just volunteers. So it's a little bit of surprise to us, I think, to myself and to Richard. The town has taken a renewed interest in the house. I think that's a good thing, but I think we'd like to know where the committee fits in with that new interest. I don't know, we'll have to kind of, maybe we can schedule some kind of a meeting with Lisa and kind of get, yeah. Anyway, so Richard, did you have something more you want to add?
Yeah, well, I guess, are we moving on to approval of the minutes? Because I have some questions about the minutes that were provided to us. And that's why I stopped backwards a little bit on that. If we're moving on to I guess on the agenda, let me turn the right page here. Where are too many papers here. Yeah, so that the election of the officers, you said you wanted to move to the end, and I guess there was no objection. So are we actually on approval of the minutes?
Yes.
Well, then I do have some concerns. I don't recall Lorraine being there. I couldn't have my memory but I know she had gone off to her daughter's in Michigan or someplace like that because she was very ill. I did not think she was at that meeting. I'm, and so again, I can't check it. She died shortly after that meeting, and I know she had been at her daughter's for some time. Andy Germain was a good member. I trust his accuracy, except I've never seen these minutes until they were sent out. So we apparently were not sent, and based on these, I have all the records that I've kept, and I don't recall seeing these minutes. Do you recall seeing them in the past, Tim?
No, I do not, actually, no.
Pardon?
Um, I think I must have seen them, I mean, it's so many years ago, but Andy was pretty good about sending them out, so I imagine I saw them,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'm not positive, but I don't recall seeing them, and I know that one of the questions that I would have had at the next meeting, if these were the ones that were presented, would have been that the letter that the town attorney wrote that was the death knell of our committee. I would have expected that to be attached to the minutes because that was a very important document. And before I would vote to approve the minutes, I would like to have that letter attached.
Yeah, I don't, and now that I'm looking at them, Richard, I don't remember seeing these minutes, this sort of,
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think.
Andy, I guess declined to be involved. He would certainly have some knowledge of it.
But yeah, I think the way it used to be was that the secretary would submit the minutes to the town, to the police or whoever was working there, and then they would type them up and distribute them.
Yeah, that's what I understood too.
Right.
And
I'll have to say, I don't recall getting these particular minutes. Yeah. But I don't know, it could, I mean, it just,
yeah, I'm not going to swear I didn't get it because we were so discouraged at what happened that we just kind of let things slide. We could have fought it, but we just had spent so much time and energy to have the rug pulled out from underneath us was disheartening.
yeah, okay, well,
So I will not vote in favor of approving the minutes because I have those questions.
um,
And I can't imagine the two members can do anything but abstaining because they were not there. So how can they approve them?
okay. Well, I guess we'll table the approval of the minutes to the next meeting, so we get more clarity on that.
And I would ask that the town manager's office to please include send out whatever that initial letter was. I probably have it myself if I dug into my back files, but it would be good to have that attached to amplify and my accuracy or not, because again, this is my recollection. I didn't go back and dig out all the records. And again, I know that Lorraine had gone off to her daughter's, but it's possible that she was there, but just not very active in it. And I think I'd remember she was there because I think she would have left in tears, and I don't remember her leaving in tears.
Yes, I know. Well,
Sounds like a good point, though.
she would have, I think that's probably very good.
Yeah, she was passionate about it.
She should.
Yeah. I mean, she was a powerhouse until she got so elderly that she couldn't do much. So,
Okay, yeah, I think let's see if we can get maybe more clarity on that issue then, or we'll hold off on it.
so I would like to make a motion at this point, in light of the fact that we can't even really approve the minutes, that we I make a motion to request the town manager to provide us with the town attorney's letter at that point. And I would like to have him send us a letter or an opinion as to how the town envisions supporting the committee, because that really is the key to whether I resign or stay on it. is because I certainly am not going to stay on it if we have the level of support that we had in the past. Again, it would have sent me a good signal if we had been apprised of it. I'm sure that it had to go through certain approvals to be able to use it with the town manager's office, and for the town manager's office not to reach out to you or to the committee in general, indicating what the plan was, I think was I'm trying to be polite, but I'll just use the word rather rude, considering that we were a committee, and that doesn't send a good signal that the town is going to have to give us much support. Again, I was enthused when Jackie told me, the mayor told me that her daughter was interested, and I said, "Great, well, this is maybe we can do something." So I'm not willing to. I'm not going to resign at this moment, but I guess I'm saying I'm challenged the town manager to give us reasons why we should pick up. I think and I didn't get the names because I can't hear well, and I was looking to see if I had um, the committee list on my page, and I'm trying to find it right now. Um, where is it? Because I can't remember both your names, so I'm sort of talking around it. But
It's on the top of the agenda.
okay, there we are. Yes, okay, Dana. Dana is which one again? Because again, my speaker is not working very well at all. So Dana, stick your hand up in a second. I got to get off my screen. Okay, Dana. Yeah, that's what I thought. So everything you just said, I agree with. That it's an absolutely amazing resource. It was well used. We had trouble getting the school system to use it because No Child Left Behind came in, so they were leaving everybody behind because they had to spend so much time doing basically paperwork and teaching to the curriculum. There wasn't time to make as much use. But sometimes we did have some good people coming in from the town. And we also had a program where we would go out and discuss it, go to the classrooms and so forth. And then again, those reenactments were well attended. It was a great thing. And then we had various music programs there. We had taught speakers. I remember Lorraine having one of her former students who wrote a book on stone walls, I think it was in New England, who did a wonderful exhibit and talked about how wonderful a teacher she was. I could go through a long list of programs that we had making very active use. We probably had 4 programs a year. Does that sound right, Tim?
All right, we had the Christmas, we always had a Christmas event.
Yeah, we had a harp player there one year.
Yeah, we did, right. Yeah, we had numerous, we had a one-woman play once, Ruth, I forget her name, but she's from Mystic. We had a lot, it was a
Yeah.
mix.
Yeah, at least 4 a year, if not more. I think we were shooting for 1 a month at one point, but it was hard to get all of that going. So it was at least 4, and maybe as much as 8 or 10 some years. And then that big one in the summertime, and there was I think 3, maybe 4 that we had before the insurance company. I'm going to give you a little personal understanding of how town governments work. I'm going to go back to when I was on the town council. This is back in the 80s. And there was a group of young people, kids, who wanted a skateboard park. And they came to the town council and they made a wonderful presentation of why the town should have a skateboard park. The town council was in favor of it, particularly because these young people were so energetic about it. And the town manager at that time, I'm not picking on town managers particularly, it's the way the government works. He said our insurance company would not allow it to happen. A short while later, maybe, relatively speaking, maybe 10 years later, suddenly the insurance companies had no more problems with it. Same thing that happened to with our landfill on another case that we wanted to have and I remember presenting it, a give and take building. And it was told, well, we can't do it because the insurance companies wouldn't like it. Um, The other side that happens regularly in this type of governments is the town manager. And again, I'm not saying this is necessarily wrong. I don't particularly like it. The town attorney works for them, not for the town. It's a little bit like our Justice Department in DC right now. So the town manager is the one who instructs the attorneys, and it's common knowledge that the town manager will say what he wants the outcome to be, and the town attorneys do the best they can to accommodate that. It's not like they come in and ask for a general thing. That's normal. And I don't think it's necessarily wrong. But that's why I was so concerned that we were given a report from the town attorney that was not something that was necessarily the case. I'm going to give you one other example of that so you can understand the significance of it. Back when I was on the town council, I proposed that the town spend money to buy open space. And we had a referendum, and we got the town's people to vote $8 million for open space. That was in the 80s. That was revolutionary. I think it was probably the biggest amount any town anywhere in the country had given to open space. And we ended up spending almost $8 million. Pequot Woods, there's a whole long list of them that we acquired at that time. It was one of it was the Merritt property on the top of Fort Hill. Now, this was properties that were supposed to be in perpetual easements for open space. I remember checking the minutes of it. And when I was proposing that, I pointed out as part of the discussion at that time that anything that's supposed to be written in stone, there's always ways around it. And what I said to them at that time, I said that because we had at least one member of the committee who really, the town council, who really wanted any land we bought to be able to be used for anything the town wanted it to. And I pointed out that if there was a very important reason why that the state's attorney general, using a principle called cy-pres, that if something becomes impossible or there was an unanticipated situation that could cause a negative consequence, the charitable intent, that's what cy-pres is, can be met by other means under certain circumstances. So when that's the way the land was to be held. But there was always this little bit of a very small crack in the wall. And so when they decided they wanted to put the new middle school on the Merritt property that was open space, it was encumbered by a grant from the state of Connecticut, but it was also encumbered by the referendum. My good friend, Mark, who I like Mark, he was a good town manager, so I'm not going to say anything negative about him, except that the fact that when I met with him and the consultant who was consulting with the town Board of Education, I told them, you have a problem here because that is encumbered by not just the state of Connecticut, but also the referendum. So there has to be a process. Mark, and they decided to ignore what I said. And I passed it on to John when he came, because that was when it was coming along. And I said, you've got to take care of this. And it was ignored until the final town council meeting, and I had just gone through a 5-year case on something very similar in North Stonington, and was quite well schooled in the law at that point. And they had told me, well, our town attorney tells us we don't need to do that. The town attorney's advice was wrong. And I presented to the town council the flaws. I had a 5-minute presentation, but they cut it back because so many people were speaking to 3 minutes. And if the town pulled it at that point, otherwise they would have lost $100 million from the state. It was that critical. And I also laid out the path to find some land that is equal to or better. And you'll probably be able to get the state's attorney general to say it's okay. But they ignored it. And so I'm telling you this in a sense is because our town government often has a particular goal and doesn't use the attorneys for good advice. They use the attorneys to try and get what the end result is they want. Sometimes
Yes,
that's a great way to do it. Other times it causes disaster. And we came very close to losing $100 million for the middle school simply because they were ignoring what was the actual law. And I was very upset about that because they knew. But they got the town attorneys to say, don't worry about it. And they did eventually. So we got an extra piece of land. The property over on Birch Creek was then traded, plus the one that they wanted to give for the state, and it all came out to be, I think, in a pretty good place. But it took an unnecessary amount of tension. So I'm just giving you that, Tim, and the
I
committee
know.
to point out that I don't want to
Yeah.
be involved in this committee if we're going to be having those kind of fights with the town. If they are 100% behind this committee and using the house, maybe even getting a curator back because that was the best way, then
Yeah.
I would consider staying on the committee.
Okay, I think it is an important role of the committee to ensure that Anne Graham Clark's, the terms of the gift are honored, and I think that is a good point to make. And I think that's one of the important reasons that the committee exists is to ensure that her wishes and the agreements are honored. So I think we are all I think we can agree on that. That's definitely.
So that was the reason why I wanted to make the motion that we asked the town manager to please provide us with that letter and also with what his intent is for the use of the house to see whether it comports to something that we can get behind, because it really comes down to what he wants to do in the way this government works right now. The town council can override it, but they rarely do these days because that's just the nature of it. They follow. Even that was the situation back when I was on the town council as well, and I could tell you stories about that too. But I'm going to save you the bother. If we have a chance to get together, I can give you some things. But it's always a challenge between the public's input and the town manager wanting to manage the town in the way that he thinks is best. And I'm not saying there's ill intent on that. I want to make that clear, because we hire a town manager because we think he's going to do good by the town, and he has a vision, and he wants to follow the vision. Sometimes public input, sometimes town councils can get in the way of his vision, and then we have a conflict. So I'd like to know that as a committee member, we're not the council, but as a committee, are we going to just end up with a lot of frustration, or are we going to have the town behind us?
Yeah, no, I think we want to have some clarity on what the communication will be between the committee and the town. And you're right. I think the committee provides oversight and to make sure that the town is honoring its end of the bargain. So I think we can agree on that. Yes.
So my motion is that we ask the town manager to provide that and also a letter indicating what his vision is.
I think we would be better inviting him to our next meeting to have that conversation. And what I can tell you, I've been on the 250 committee all year, and the message that our committee, which is overseen by the library because of all of the library's funding and activities,
Sure.
We have been given the word from the town manager through the director of the library that he's in full support of getting this building back up and running and things happening. It was my understanding that everyone from the committee was notified about the open house event. So if that didn't happen, I'm very sorry. It wasn't my responsibility, but it was the town manager who, through his staff meetings with Parks and Recs, Buildings and Grounds, and the library, that they've been cleaning up the property, taking care of the general maintenance and those types of things. The library has been utilizing the building for some library programs. And if that should have come through the committee and didn't, then I think that disconnects at the town manager's level. So I think it would be best to have him come to our next meeting to line out where the support is. But I've had conversations with him, because once a month I'm going to the town council meeting to talk about the 250 activities. And he's been very excited that Jabez Smith House would be open again, would be having activities. In my opinion, he's full in support. So I think it's going to move forward in a good way. But I totally understand how you're feeling because, yeah, the rug definitely got pulled out from under you, and then I could see it falling apart from there. So say it's a new clean slate and we have him come to whatever our next meeting is going to be to make that plan clear. But I do feel he's on that same page. I know the library is eager to look for more grant funding to do more over there. The library has a new archivist who is very happy to look for more things related to Jabez Smith House, to archive anything that's over there, and get those things logged in properly as well. So I see it as lots of teamwork from the town. And when we talked about having the open house event over there as part of the Connecticut Open House Day, it was my understanding, again, from the library director, that the whole activity was covered under the town's insurance, that there wasn't an issue about other outside insurance. So.
Yeah, no, that's a big change because
Right.
that was a major problem.
Right.
So, yeah, you need to know how they. Yeah, no, I think it's good that the town is showing, renewed interest in the house. It just came as a surprise to us because it's
Right.
the house had just been sort of coasting along and as far as we knew, nothing had changed materially at the town's level
Right.
to enable more activity in place. So kind of a surprise.
So I'm raising my hand, Tim, but I don't know whether
Yes.
it comes through on that or not, but I'm trying to do it the way it's supposed to.
Okay.
I wonder, and Alea, is that how you pronounce your name?
Aaliyah.
Alea. What do you think?
About which part?
Pardon?
About which part?
Well, about whether we should ask the town manager to send us some kind of a written document, a letter indicating what his vision is and the support, or just have him come to the town, or maybe both would be an appropriate thing to do. So we have something to discuss with him going from that point. So I guess would suggest that maybe you're a committee member. So you're going to have to vote on it, or else if nobody seconds it, then my motion just drops dead.
I think maybe both, only because if we get a letter from him and then we also have questions, like we can bring the questions up with him at the next meeting. Because we don't want to also just put him on the spot to like give us everything he thinks of off the top of his head. So I think both options would be great if they're put together. Just so we all of us have an idea of where even we would want to go with the committee moving forward with the town as well.
So, Tim, you're the chairman. I made a motion. We've had a discussion, but we haven't had a second.
Yeah. So the motion is that we request from the town manager a letter clarifying the relationship between the committee and the town and his vision for that.
Well, I use the word vision, the town manager's vision, because it may be something that, is very, very helpful, and then we can work with him on a positive way, or it may be that it's something that we don't agree with, in which case then we can have a better understanding and ask questions and maybe come to that accommodation, which is what should have happened back in 2017, rather than just simply say to us, sorry, the town attorney said blah, blah, blah. Attorneys are wrong lots of time. I'm an attorney. You have court cases. Somebody wins, somebody loses. So every court case, there's one attorney that was right and one attorney that was wrong. So we didn't have the opportunity to really make our case. This is the point, is that if he's indicates something that's very helpful, supportive, we can move forward easily. If not, we can ask questions as to how we get that support, or we change, work our visions that we might have within the parameters of what he's willing to do. So,
Could that be achieved by having him, a meeting, an in-person meeting? With
Yep.
the committee and the manager, town manager, and then have him put it in writing afterwards?
no,
Would that-
I would rather him put it in writing first, Tim, and I'm going to modify my motion to if I may, because it hasn't been seconded, so I can do it. That we ask him to give us an idea of his vision and come to the next meeting.
Right?
Again, nothing's been seconded, so we have no motion that's actually actionable yet. Somebody has to decide they agree with me. I know in principle I've heard some agreement. Um,
I think I'm wondering, Richard, I think I would probably reverse it, the order of it, though. I would have a meeting with him first. And, then we hash out the issues and as Leo was saying, we could ask him questions and have a kind of a back and forth. And, then if we're satisfied with what we're hearing, then we could ask for it to be, put in writing so that we have it.
well, first we have to get somebody to second my motion, or we're just talking up in the air. So if nobody seconds the motion, then that kind of
Well,
drops right off.
I'm proposing that we modify the motion
Okay.
to meet with the town manager.
So you're making a new motion.
Well, yes, it's a new
Okay.
motion.
So I have a motion that I'm asking for a second where I modified it to the point where we ask him to put it in writing first, so we have something to reflect on, so we can come in prepared to ask him more questions. Your idea is to have him come in and we try to pull the questions out of the moment without knowing where he's coming from. I guess that's why I prefer my motion. You've made a counter motion, and because mine was not seconded, yours then can be the one, or either one, somebody can second one or the other, whichever one they want to do.
Okay, well, I make a motion that we arrange or invite the town manager to attend the next meeting in order to engage him in a dialogue regarding the future of the Jabez Smith House Committee and its role in the oversight and management of the Jabez Smith House. To be followed and to be and then once we've done that, to have a letter furnished to us outlining the terms or the agreement that we have reached. That's my motion.
So if I can summarize, because I only hear bits and pieces, so you're making the motion that we invite the town manager to come to the committee so we can discuss his vision as well as the committee's vision, and then ask that after that meeting that he put in writing what
If we feel we need it to be in writing, perhaps we were satisfied with his responses and we feel like any misunderstandings have been clarified and we're okay to go forward. I mean,
Okay.
I think a discussion is I think going to be productive if we start with it.
Okay. So to simplify, if I may, Tim, why don't we
Yes.
just make your motion that we invite him to come to a meeting? And then at
Yes.
that point, we can make another motion if we want for him to put it in writing other than simply the minutes, because that'll be writing. So that I would say is if anybody is willing to agree to it, that would be your motion that we invite the town manager to a meeting to explain his vision of the house. And so we can ask him questions about it. Would that be a fair assessment?
I think that's good, and we can also go over a little bit of the history of the founding of the committee and what its purpose was and how.
Yeah. And my position is that I think we should have him put something in writing first, so we have a basis to ask the questions ahead of time. So those seem to be the two motions that are being on the floor. So if we can get input from the other committee members just as to the order, because that's really all we're talking about is the order, then maybe we can move off this particular topic. So I guess I'm inviting the others to talk and lean toward one or the other, and then we can get somebody to second one of them, and then we can move forward.
We might be there, but
I will second Tim's motion about inviting the town manager to come and meet with us. I feel that's the next step.
As a motion has been presented, it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Richard, are you?
I'm against it because I want to see something in writing first, because I think it will help us home in on the issues and that we can determine a degree of level of support right from the get-go. Because again, I haven't seen it. There's no reason for us not to have been notified, and I don't blame the 250 committee at all. They would have expected that if there was a committee, that the town manager's office would have notified us. I don't think it was their job, and I don't have any way. I mean, glad they did it, but very glad they did it. But I think again, I would like to have some sense of where the town manager is before he comes in, so we can fine tune our position. So that's, I guess, the difference. I think we should have him write something to us first and then have him come in. And you think we should have him come in first. And right now we seem to be sort of stuck with 2 and 2
Yeah,
as far as I can tell.
I'm not. I guess okay. I think so. Did the motion?
Right, because the
Seconded,
three of
the three of
us.
us. So-
Yes,
so-
he's
Can I add, okay, so
Yes.
I think I got a little confused as well. One motion, or the motion that was currently, we'll get to it on the floor at the second.
No, the second one never got a second, so.
The first one, okay,
Right.
so then with the talks, was the motion to make it a meeting first and then discuss whether or not we want the letter to come in on another motion, or was it all together?
I think the first motion was to request the town manager furnish us a letter outlining. And I think the problem for me, Richard, is I'm not sure what we're asking him to do exactly.
What his vision is, what he believes that the town should do with the property. It can be simple, it can be complex. It's just to get something for us to review so we have a better idea of what questions we might want to ask and where our advocacy should be toward making the committee be a useful committee that doesn't end up in the same frustrations that we've had in the past. My reading of him was that initially he did not support the Jabez Smith house, that it was something that he thought he could basically avoid for whatever reason. Now he may very well be in favor of it. I'd like to have some sense of that. So because my sense right now, again, with us not even being notified that it was going to be used or that it had been used by the library on a regular thing. Did you know about that, Tim?
Oh, I did not. No.
Yeah. So again, we've been sidestepped for 10 years. Yet he would call us and say, do you want to be reappointed? So it wasn't that he wasn't aware of the committee. It was, I just don't understand. I'm baffled. The letter would give me a little bit of, to put it, the most legal terms, warm fuzzies that we're not wasting our time. So that's why I'd like to have a letter. It doesn't have to be extensive. It's just to get some idea. And we may be 100% behind what he wants to do. Or we may say, no, let's modify it. But we would then have him come in so we can now have that discussion that I wish we'd been able to have in 2017.
No, I'm in agreement with you, Richard. I just think that we're going to get the answers, I think, through the conversation with him. I think probably in a little more detail than if we try to pin it down in a letter.
Well, let me just sort of elaborate one more step, Tim, if I may.
Yeah.
In 2017, if he had disclosed that letter to us ahead of time, rather than call us in and put it on the table in front of us, and said, I'd like to discuss this letter, the things would have been a whole lot different. Maybe it would have ended up where the town attorney's opinion was there, but we would have at least had the courtesy of having the opportunity to have it ahead of time so we could prepare for it, so we could discuss it. So I could perhaps have taken a little time with some of my legal training to say, well, this particular point, there's another case, because I remember she referenced a few cases and I read them and I didn't think that they were on point. So that's why I've already been blindsided once by it. I'd like to not be blindsided a second time.
I appreciate your point. I personally think we'll get to the same place with a conversation by face-to-face discussion with him. And then we
10
can
years,
assess.
maybe 10 years later, Tim, sorry to interrupt, but
Certainly not.
here we are,
Yeah.
10 years later.
Um,
So
Well-
again, if there's no second on mine, then we can vote on yours and see where we are.
Well,
We've certainly, I think we beat the dead horse enough. So let's just see where we are in voting.
all right, well, I think we'll do it again then. So I've stated my motion. I think Dana seconded it. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we have 3 in favor, and Richard, you're opposed?
Yep, so that's fine. I would like to see the letter
All right.
first.
I can understand. I totally understand. Let's try this. If it doesn't work, I'll take the blame.
Yeah.
Right.
Best of a point of order, if we want to talk about, and
Yes.
Tim is chairman, I think you'd have the power to invite him anyway.
Okay.
So-
All right. Oh, that's good. Okay. Good. That's good to know. But at least I'm glad that we've discussed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the next order of business. Correspondence, public comment. I don't think I have too much to report except some back and forth with Lisa Hilton at the town manager's office in the setting up of the meeting tonight, and also she gave me some indication, or gave me the date and general information about the open house prior to it. So that's all the correspondence. Or
I would like to report under public comment piece. I was at the open house event for the whole day because I was manning the 250 table that was set up there. We had a little over 200 people show up during the course of the day. Everyone was overjoyed that the place was open, that they could see it, that they were seeing activity in general. It was very well received everywhere. I watched the town council meeting from Tuesday night, where Councilor Jones also commented on what a wonderful event it was. So it definitely got public attention, and that was wonderful.
That and the treasurer's report.
There's listed in here.
Is an
Do we
item.
Do we have a treasurer?
We,
Do we have
I
a
don't-
treasurer?
no, we don't. So we'd
Okay.
have to elect one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious what the item donation trust fund is. That was another question I had for Lisa. If she would have been here tonight, I would have asked her what that refers to.
That was my question too,
Okay.
is to, does this committee have, like 501c3 status or for nonprofit, or had we been previously doing fundraising? So that was my
Yeah.
question when I saw that.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there have been individual donations. I know that for a long time, people took a tour of the house. They would put money in a jar. I would always bring that to Lisa. I think, I know a relative of mine left some money to the town specifically for the benefit of the house. And I'd like to pursue that, find out the status of that. That was quite many years ago. That's an item,
Need more information.
yeah. Maybe that.
Sorry, we would also need, because it only says that the last expense was for the fiscal year, 23. But was there any other expenses prior to that between? Or that was from 20.
Don't know what that.
Right.
And what was allocated in the budget for those years, but no, nothing.
Right, so
Any,
just more details.
yeah.
Especially the moving. What the spending was back then for what it could. Are we raising it? How does that even work?
The town allocates a certain amount. Richard, you can go into more detail, but they will allocate a certain amount for the house.
Unfortunately, I can barely hear you guys. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're discussing how the town funds the operation and maintenance of the house.
Yeah.
And I know each year they make allocate a certain amount in the budget for the
Yep.
house. But and for years we kept up and kind of kept track of that. But I have to say I don't know how that's transpired over the last several years.
Well, what I recall is that we would make a proposal during budget time with some degree of detail as to what we needed. Some of it was to pay for the oil, some of it was to anticipate some of the maintenance, but much of the maintenance was done under the public works budget, and that's probably continued. But sometimes if we wanted something special, like if there was I think, well, I remember one issue had to do with the lilac bushes being cut down, but we won't get into all that. It was they weren't supposed to be without our approval, and the town maintenance cut them down. But I remember at the floors that we were involved when they had to be redone in helping to have that done, and I believe that we put that budget in rather than be from the maintenance because it was specifically for that and other type things as well. So it was a little bit of both. Some of the general maintenance was not part of our budget, but anything that we needed that was over and above general maintenance was something that we requested specifically. It was put in the budget. The town council sometimes cut it, and usually we didn't get everything we wanted, and then we would have to go and show up at the RTM to see if we could get it put back in again. And that seemed to be an annual thing that we did. Was to indicate how important and special the building was. We rarely ever had to bring up the issue of our responsibility under the will. I think that was understood. And that was our anchor to windward, is that we didn't want to go too far from making it a public space. And I think that, I'm happy that the town, that the library has been using it. That helps to meet some of our obligation. I wasn't aware they were. And so again, it goes back to that same issue of my concern. But anyway, so that's the budget. So it would be in the budget. Again, part of it was the oil, was our budget, and then general maintenance. And then we had a certain amount of money we had asked for special programs. Very often we would get donations, and there was an opportunity for the fund. I guess it's the trust fund that the treasury report shows that there's some money in there. So that's the best I can remember. It's been 10 years since we did it.
That's something that we'll definitely like to get some more information and clarity from the office on the state of that fund that's you need to know about. Okay, other items of business, 2026 meeting calendar. Richard, assuming that we continue on as a committee. Are there days that work for you, and then we can ask the other members as well?
My schedule is so varied, it's very hard for me to pin out ahead of time. So I would suggest that, and also the question that I'm still somewhat on the fence about whether I'll continue on the committee. That's the best way I can describe it. I think you guys should go ahead and choose the dates that you want, and I will do my best to accommodate.
Um, I'm pretty,
Um, have we moved past the budget or the treasurer's report?
Yes.
yes, we have, yeah.
Did we make any motion? I couldn't, I've not been able to hear you well.
Well, a general intent to request more information from the town manager.
The concern I have on that, and again, I wasn't able to hear when it was the appropriate time, but they're saying that they used in fiscal year 23 for tree trimming. That certainly shouldn't have been used without the committee being involved, because that was our role, was that trust fund was clearly our responsibility according to everything I remember. And tree trimming was something that was generally done by the town without it coming out of our budget, unless it was some special thing that didn't have to do with it. So I think that the town improperly took $1,220 out of our trust fund, and it should be put back.
Bless it. Issue. What would be is this something we would take up with Lisa Hilton?
With Lisa or the town manager when he comes and say, how did that happen? Again, my recollection is goes, my memory is not perfect. The older I get, the less perfect it is. But I recall things like that were the maintenance issues that were taken care of by the town. And tree trimming was basic, unless it was something that was over and above the normal maintenance. For example, when we wanted to put the bathroom in to the garage. That was something that we had to lobby for. I think it ended up being a town budget item, but it was not. It was something that was under our requests and a separate item, so we could have that for the programs. I think when Michael wanted to have some additional funds so we could plant his gardens, that was something that came out of the trust fund, and we had to then vote on it to take it out. But that was not something that went into the town budget. So I think, again, those are just some examples that come up. But I would inquire as to what process did the $1,220 be taken out for tree trimming when it should have been covered by the general town maintenance.
Okay, yep, we'll bring that issue up. Not representative from the town.
Yeah, it says for information only, so I guess we don't have to actually act on it. But again, I think that the information raises a question.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so now we're on to the calendar. And again, I would suggest, but I would make a suggestion that we pick one date a month that's on the same, like the third Thursday or the second Thursday or Wednesday, whatever, because it's much better to be able to manipulate calendars around a steady date rather than try to come up with one one day here and there each month. Again, I'm going to let you guys decide, but I think that would be useful, and then we can make it easier to accommodate our calendars to fit it.
Okay. All right. Is there a date that works better for?
The third and fourth Thursdays are tight for me, because 50 committees meeting tonight in the next room.
Okay.
So that's tough. But other nights of the week are flexible. You're gone in July for the whole month?
I'm gone from the 4th. And then I'm gone again August. But I'll be here the week of the.
Yes, it is like that last Monday, a workable thing, the fourth Monday of the month?
I could not hear that again. I'm sorry. It breaks up. It's probably my computer as much as the fact that the microphone is some distance from you. So try one more time. What was your suggestion?
My suggestion was the fourth Monday of the month.
That would be the 27th. That works for me.
Again, I will try my best to accommodate. I can't predict exactly, but I see no impediment on my end, so I leave it to you guys to make that determination.
And now, normally does the group meet on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, when you were meeting previously?
It was I believe it was monthly, right, Richard?
Monthly, yeah.
Yeah.
And we could do a phone bank or when emails came in, email bank to postpone, or if there was some reason we had to then shift it, we would do an accommodation. And there seemed to be no problem in terms of procedures as long as we were able to notify it, because we are a public committee, so the agenda has to be, notice has to be done the way all other meetings in the town have to be done. But there are procedures to modify it or to cancel a meeting if that becomes important. So but it's best to pick one, and I think that's probably as good as any. And then we'll see how it goes from there.
6 o'clock, 6 p.m. works for everybody. All right, and very good. Okay, so that will be, we have a tentative date for the next meeting, July 27th. Okay, and then future planning discussion. Yeah,
I think we've already covered that. Invite the manager.
right. That's
No.
part of it.
I got one more. The 250 committee would like to have a Christmas event at Jabez Smith House. So that, I'm bringing that here to this table right now.
To get a little heads up on
Right.
that. Good. Okay.
So then what would be the new process? If we're gonna do events there, would the process be that it comes to the committee for approval, or just to let you know that it's gonna be happening? What would be our process?
Yeah, I think ideally, we would come to the committee and we would discuss it here, it would come through the committee and be discussed and agreed upon among us. Then work with the 250 committee through what's been agreed on.
Yeah, I think you're correct, Tim, that, something like that would always come to the committee, and this is where the problem lies. I can't imagine the committee not wanting to do it, but I would like very much, again, if I'm on the committee, for the committee to be very much involved in planning what it actually is. Otherwise, we'll just let the 250 committee take over the house.
No, because we only run through all of this year.
Yeah. So,
That's right. Our bandwidth is this year only, but we are planning events through December.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that, again, going back to past history, although there's a real question, and that's one of the questions that I would also have asked the town manager, is exactly what authority does our committee have? We always had authority, but I don't know what the legal basis of it was, that if we recommended something, it sometimes happened, sometimes didn't. But we never pushed it to say, well, we're the committee, we get to rule. We always were given the courtesy of having a full discussion. And then if we disagree with the town manager usually would find a reason why it couldn't be done, like insurance. But we all worked pretty well together. And I want to say I was very pleased with Mark's overall general support. This is going back before John, of the house. The insurance issue was the big bugaboo. And they wouldn't let the town insurance cover the events there. So if that's a change, that's a good one. And I'd like to know if that's going to go forward, so we can have reenactments if we want to. Okay,
Yeah, no.
thanks.
Okay, very good. Okay, I think unless there's any further discussion, I welcome our two members to our board. Thank you for coming and part of the Jabez Smith House Committee. And we'll look forward to our next meeting in July. And so I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Yep.